My name is Clara Wynn, and tonight my family reminded me why silence can be the sharpest kind of revenge. The restaurant was one of those places where candles pretended to be stars and waiters spoke in whispers. My brother Ethan picked it. Of course he did. He liked rooms that made people look up to him literally. I sat across from him, pretending not to notice the way he smirked when the menu prices caught my father's eye. "So, Clara," he said, slicing into his steak before the waiter even walked away. "Still doing that warehouse thing?" His tone made the word warehouse sound like failure. Mom smiled tightly, the kind of smile that hurts more than it comforts. "You should really think about going back for your MBA, honey. Stability matters." I stirred my wine, watched the color shift in the light, and said nothing. I had learned long ago that silence unsettled them more than defense ever could. Ethan leaned back, folding his arms like a man delivering a verdict. "You're too smart to pretend you're doing well. It's okay to admit when something doesn't work." Pretend. The word lingered like smoke. I looked around the table, the perfect family tableau. Polished silver, expensive laughter, years of assumptions piled high like the dessert tray waiting in the corner. No one asked what I'd been building, who I'd become, or how hard I'd fought. They didn't need to. They'd already decided who I was. So I smiled the polite kind and let Ethan believe he'd won. What he didn't know was that the company he'd read about last week, the one Forbes called the future of intelligent logistics, was mine. And tonight he was about to find out. Silverware clinked against porcelain, filling the silence I refused to break. Ethan's voice dominated the table, talking markets, fintech, and his strategic pivot, expecting applause. Dad nodded. Mom smiled, parroting pride she didn't understand. So Ethan said, "How's that startup thing going? Or is it a hobby now?" "It's going," I replied. "Going where warehouses aren't exactly glamorous." Dad tried to smooth it over. "He just wants you stable." Stable. Their favorite word for small. Mom added softly, "You were always so bright. Hard to watch you walk away from everything." "Everything," I said. "You mean what made you comfortable?" The waiter's quiet visit reset the room. I watched Ethan brag about yachts and clients, his voice drowning in his own certainty. I smiled when expected, but inside I was already gone, thinking of Wynn Systems, my company 2 blocks away, alive and thriving. 3 states' government contracts, national retailers. Real work, real risk. Ethan raised his glass. "Come to my firm's event. Might help you meet real investors." I smiled. "Maybe I'll surprise you." He smirked, missing the weight of it. 5 years ago, I'd left their blueprint behind, ditching my MBA, renting a dusty office coding beside humming conveyor belts. Sophie Tran and I built Wynn Systems from nothing, AI-driven inventory tracking that caught national attention. While my family saw rebellion, I was building revolution. Now at this table, their doubt sharpened me. Ethan's smugness was background noise. Then the waiter returned, holding dessert in hesitation. "Sorry," he said, glancing at me. "Are you Clara Wynn?" Silence. "My professor showed us your case study," he continued. "Your adaptive supply chain model, it's changing the industry." He left, but the echo stayed. Wynn Systems. Legend. Ethan stared. "That's you." "Yeah," I said. "That's me." He checked his phone, reading aloud. "Forbes, the woman behind America's smartest warehouses." His jaw tightened. Mom's fork froze. Dad's face drained. Why didn't you say anything Ethan asked? Because you never asked. When the check came, I slid my black card forward. It's on me. Silence deepened, and for once I didn't feel it. Sometimes truth doesn't roar. Sometimes it just walks in wearing your name. Ethan didn't speak for a while after the waiter left, just scrolled through headlines trying to process how the ground had shifted beneath him. Mom was first to recover. Clara, why didn't you tell us? Would you have believed me? I asked. Ethan finally looked up. You sat there all night knowing you're some CEO. I could have said something I said. But you never asked. He pushed his chair back. You love playing the victim, don't you? I don't think about you that much. Dad tried to calm things, but the fracture was already there. For years, Ethan had been their proof of success. Now the mirror cracked, and he didn't know who he was without it. The server laid the receipt in front of me. Thank you, Ms. Wynn. Ethan's gaze flicked to my black card. You think money changes anything? No, I said. It just reveals things. He left to get air. Mom followed. Dad lingered older somehow. I just wanted you to be happy. I am. When they were gone, I stayed watching my reflection in the dark window, steady, unfamiliar, free. Outside, rain softened the city. My phone buzzed. How did it go? Sophie asked. They finally met me, I replied. Power doesn't always arrive loud. Sometimes it's the moment someone realizes they underestimated you. That night, I barely slept messages from Mom and Ethan, blinking with half apologies. I wasn't angry anymore, just tired. By morning, fog covered the skyline. Coffee in hand, I watched the city wake and felt something ease. I had built this life piece by piece. Later, I drove past my parents' house, curtains open, same small routines. I didn't stop. Forgiveness takes distance. Instead, I visited the first warehouse I'd rented. Empty now, but the air still hummed with memory nights of coding, dreaming, surviving. Every cruel remark had been a brick. I'd built something from them. When I stepped outside, the sun cut through clouds. Maybe Sophie was right, I wasn't built for revenge. I was built to endure. And sometimes endurance looks a lot like victory. A month later, they showed up unannounced. I was in the middle of reviewing a proposal when my assistant buzzed through the intercom. Clara, there's a group of people downstairs asking for you. They say they're family. My stomach tightened. Send them up, I said, though part of me already knew I shouldn't. The elevator doors opened, and there they were. Mom, Dad, Ethan, standing awkwardly in the glass lobby of Wynn Systems. They looked small against the backdrop of steel beams and the quiet hum of machines. I couldn't help but notice how different the air was here, still professional, but alive, efficient, certain. Mom was the first to speak. We wanted to see where you work. Her voice trembled between pride and apology. I gestured toward the open floor below. You're looking at it. The tour started in silence. Rows of monitors tracked shipment routes in real time. Robotic lifts moved crates with effortless precision. Engineers greeted me with warm familiarity, the kind that said she built this. Every step we took, I saw their faces shift, realization blooming where doubt had lived for years. This is incredible, Dad whispered. Ethan shoved his hands into his pockets. So this is what you've been doing all this time? I nodded. The thing you called pretending. He flinched. The silence stretched between us again. Mom touched my arm. "We didn't understand, Clara. We just wanted you to be safe." "I know," I said. "You wanted what you thought was best. But what's safe for you isn't always right for me." She nodded, eyes glistening. "We're proud of you," she said quietly, and I believed her. But pride doesn't erase history, it just rewrites tone. We ended the tour in my office, sunlight spilling through the floor-to-ceiling windows. On my desk sat a small model, a miniature warehouse built from laser-cut steel. My first prototype. Ethan picked it up carefully, tracing the edges with his thumb. "I used to think you were running away," he said finally. "Turns out you were running toward something bigger." "I was just tired of asking for permission," I said. He met my gaze. "I'm sorry." The words were simple, unadorned, but they carried the weight of everything he'd never said before. I nodded, not smiling, not angry, just settled. "I know." We stood there for a while, the three of us surrounded by the quiet hum of progress. I didn't offer to take them to lunch. They didn't ask. Some relationships don't need grand reconciliations, just recognition that the past has changed shape. When they finally left, I stayed by the window watching their reflections fade into the street below. The city glowed in late afternoon light, cranes swinging in the distance, freight trucks moving like veins through the skyline. This was the world I'd built not to prove them wrong, but to prove I could. My phone buzzed. A message from Sophie, investor dinner tonight, or staying home to breathe. I smiled. Both I typed back, in that order. Because success isn't a roar. It's the quiet steadiness that comes after the storm, when you realize you've stopped needing to be seen at all. And maybe that's the truest revenge of all peace that doesn't ask to be understood. The city looked different from here. From my office window, the skyline stretched like a blueprint I had once drawn in my head, a vision no one else believed in. The hum of machines from the floor below was steady, familiar grounding. I thought about the night in the restaurant, about the silence that had followed the truth. For years I'd imagined revenge as a grand gesture, something loud enough to shake the people who doubted me. But standing here, I realized that true revenge doesn't echo, it endures. I ran my hand across the miniature model of our first warehouse, the same one Ethan had touched. Its edges were sharp, but balanced, each piece fitting perfectly into another. I'd built it when I had nothing but willpower and a second-hand laptop. Now it sat on my desk like a quiet monument to every "you can't" I had ever heard. Mom's words still echoed faintly. "We just wanted you to be safe." I understood now that safety to them meant sameness. But to me it had always meant freedom, the ability to stand alone without fear of falling. Outside, sunlight broke through the clouds, catching on the glass of nearby buildings. The reflection shimmered like water bending light the way time bends memory. I smiled, not the polite smile I used to wear at family dinners, but something real effortless. Revenge. I'd learned isn't about proving them wrong. It's about proving to yourself that you were right all along. And as I turned off the lights and walked through the hall lined with the hum of servers and quiet determination, I realized something even simpler. I hadn't just built a company. I had built peace, designed it, engineered it, and lived inside it.